Hello, everybody. Welcome to the daily debrief for this episode, which is May the 12th. Of course, as you know, we have a special super mystery guest who you can already see. So we will keep the mystery just there for now. Just pretend that you can't see Alice. Just pretend you can't see her right now because, of course, it is May the 12th. Oh, by the way, Blake, still live in Tamworth, embedded with the Warriors in the Hornets nest of the NRL. Mark still in his garage in Te Atatū. I've had to move downstairs to the playroom. That's where I am at the moment as we do this. But May the 12th, of course, awesome day. You know why today's a big day, eh?
Of course we do. Alice, you remember why? Yes.
You remember why? Hey.
Yeah. Of course.
That's right, John Alomu's birthday.
Yeah.
I should know that, actually. That jersey there, up there, is the number 11 from the Wellington secondary schools, and I used to find my mate to get to wear that jersey because I started out on the wing.
Wow.
Nice.
Sucks to you, Plumwell. I got that one. So, yeah. I was tempted to get the eyebrow shave and everything, but
to do that, eh? All right. Mark's involvement with Jonah as well. Well, someone else, of course, who wears the Wellington Lion with pride is Alice Soper, who's with us tonight. Alice, it's awesome to have you here because the football boys are waiting to come, but they can bloody wait. So, look, we saw your message today on Twitter. I think a lot of New Zealand did as well. And for those of you that missed it, I thought it was pretty cool. Alice, you know, like we've seen announcements and we all got so happy. Some Super Rugby's coming back. Yeah. But sometimes it's hard to forget that there's a bunch of people going, and us? So what about us? So tell us about it from the women's rugby point of view. Who would you expect to have heard from now? Has any movement happened from what you've done?
Maybe like literally anyone. No, I have had a couple of conversations with. I had a chat with Rob, Nicol, and with Kevin Senior from the New Zealand Players Association today. So fair play to that. Have known Kevin in different spaces for a little bit now. So he reached out to me. He apparently got sent the video and that went around the office and they're like, "Who the heck is this?" And he was like, "Oh, nah, of course you have." Yeah. So yeah, he thought it was a laugh, but look, it would have just been nice, I guess, to have had any communication. To be honest with you, the only thing that I'd heard in the rugby space was something from my club coach, which was just a sharing the press release about level 2 that came out from NZR. And that was the thing that I stressed today when I was speaking to Kevin and to Rob, at the New Zealand Players Association is, look, I know that their job is looking after those with contracts, but let's be real, for female players in this country, there's about 30 people. There's about 30 people, and then there's the rest of us, about 1,500 that, who's talking to us. And so it's that vacuum of information, and I've been around a while, and so anytime they start getting quiet, I get suspicious. It wasn't that long ago, 2010, that was the last time that NZR was in financial trouble, and that's the last time that they tried to scrap the provincial competition, and people will say, but we got a World Cup. It was a World Cup year that year, and that didn't try and stop them from doing it. So we've got muscle memory in this, so get suspicious. And look, I've been going a bit loopy during this lockdown time, lads. I've been in solo self-isolation, and I'm a bit of an extrovert.
Oh my God,
wow.
have you?
Oi! Yep. So those of people that have stumbled across me on Twitter and on Instagram during this time, I'm sorry. I am a lot, but not usually quite this much. But now it's just there's nobody else to bounce that energy off, so it's just rocketing around. I saw the Scrum Queens, who you guys might not know, but they're one of the forefront of kind of leading women's rugby discussion. They cover everything, all elements of the game all over the world. And they had tweeted this morning being like, hey, so NZR's come out with this, still just has a line saying wait and see for women's rugby. I'm like, far out, man, I've been waiting, I've been seeing, so hurry up.
Yeah.
So
Alice,
yell to my mate or yell to other people, I guess.
It was amazing because I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of you and hadn't seen you played before. Yeah. The video was shared and I was like, holy shit, good on you, because it's a scary thing to raise one's head above the water and yell at whatever's you have to yell at. And I thought, good for you too, because even if they can't give you a date, at least fucking say something to everyone else. You know what I mean? We get it. We're all in COVID-19. People have lost their jobs. Things aren't normal. They aren't straight. But just to be acknowledged and just say, hey, we intend to have this happen, or we have been talking about you guys as well. it just, for you to put your head up above the water and do what you did this morning, and I must say, I have watched the rest of your videos since then, and they're very different to saying challenging NZR. You know, you're talking to brooms and stuff, which I get that.
Yeah, I'm generally a chill, happy vibe. Like, this is the angry guy is like only sometimes. That's usually only on the rugby field. Like, so nah, it's not.
Was it scary though? Was it a scary thought to yourself once you pressed send or post that you thought, shit, I'm
She
I'm
doesn't care.
Alice
Look at
right
her.
now. Yeah, no.
Nah, bro. Like, to be honest with you, okay, let's be honest about this. Like, I've been playing rugby now nearly 20 years. Okay, and this is reality, right? Nobody knows who the frick I am. So, like, I got nothing to lose, bro. Like, nobody knows. And look, in my day job, I've worked in hey, there she is. I've worked in politics and that, and so, like, this is what I do. I'm a community organizer by trade. I teach people how to find their voice and then hustle people around that to push for change. So, like, I can't be doing that in my day job and then not do that for the thing that I love. And it's a case of once you find your voice, it's hard not to use it, eh? And like, I've been fighting these fights for ages, bro. Like, it took me 5 years to get the club blazer off my local club, but we got there. We were the first group of players to get our 100 matches blazers, and we quit a club before that because they wouldn't recognize certain women in our team. And like, that was the first time that, like, I was probably only about 18 or something there, that like I stood up and spoke out. And that was taking a microphone off a club captain at a prize giving, because I was like, bro, you're not going to recognize our captain, so I will. So I took it and was like, yeah, shout out to Trudy, she's the best. Trudy Matalino, Ben Matalino's sister. If you think Ben's hard, nah, Trudy was hard at both. Like, laid people out. So I was like, nah, we're going to give her ups. And then everyone afterwards was like, oh, why'd you do that, Dada? And I was like, they don't know who I am, but they might know who I am now, but we also might get something changed. And it's the same thing. It was the same muscle memory today. Like, far out. And then when people are asking me, like, I was shouting about it, and then it was a different step to then go, yeah, okay, I will actually talk to news outlets and that about it. And one of my good mates, Julia Faiporti, I had a chat to her, and she's like, so it's like, you've already been saying this stuff. It's just that nobody's not been listening, I go on panels and that, and I say it every now and then, and nobody wants to hear me. So it's like, far out. This is just about bringing it into mainstream. Then cool, like, yeah, listen up. We've been ready to talk. Like,
I sort of commend you, because we've all got, us three have got daughters, and it's sort of like another way. Like, from when I was growing up, I played against women to a certain age in rugby league, but it is sort of another way that ladies can earn a living now, through rugby or rugby league. And it's the same with the rugby league at the moment. Obviously, I haven't done a post like you, which grabs everyone, but their game is taking steps forward. But now it's like it's not going to happen. And I think it hurts all the ladies that around the world, that this is going to be their next step. They aspire to, some of you women playing sport, that this could be another avenue for them. Like, do you think that now that there is that step back, can we still move forward? And are people going to be held accountable for not mentioning this?
Yeah, well, look, man, it's an interesting one, eh? Like, because it's all of this conversation and that, like, people are acting like this is new. This isn't new. Dude, I was worried about World Cup that was going to be hosted here next year already. Like, I was already worried about that because, I just spent the last 2 seasons playing over in England's new premiership that they'd set up, which is the Terrell 15. Flash, bro, real flash.
Yeah,
that's where
like
one of those jerseys come from. And like, yeah, like, they've put a whole bunch of money in. They've got all the Six Nations girls playing for, our season ran from October through April, and it's just like hissing, bro. And we come back here, and I'm fighting for this Wharepaha Cup. Wharepaha Cup is 6 games a week. 6. Like, how are we going to get the best out of our playing base with 6 games a year? Like, my rugby went up another level, bro, playing over in England, because I got to go like week on week, and I got to feel my rhythm, and I got to play against the best, like, for that long of a time. Whereas you look at club competition here, man, it's scrappy as. You've got girls that are playing for the first time in their lives, and idiots like me that, like, want to be coach on the field. So, like, you got all of these different challenges happening at once, and then the only place we have is that 6 games a year. And that's why, man, that 6 games is so important, because otherwise, why am I still playing this game at this point, So, like, yeah, there were already threads and stuff that were already problems. And so it's like, when all of this kicked off and suddenly, we're having some real conversations, I'm like, yes, like, let's have these, because men's rugby hasn't made money for fucking ages. But we're all chill about this, you know, like we're happy to lose money on men because that's investment. Like, fuck off with that, man.
Did you?
Sorry for language.
No, you're
That's
right.
all right. Hey,
No,
let it
it's
flow.
good.
Did you expect something from the provincial clubs or the other clubs to stand up and speak for you guys? As maybe
What, hearing from my union, from Wellington? Yeah, look. You look. They do all right, hey. They do. Like, this is the hard thing too. Like, this is a question that someone asked me, like, today. One of the people were saying, like, do I feel like, why is it that other women haven't been speaking out? And I'm like, there's lots of reasons for that, man. But a really big part of it is that most of our game is amateur, and so most of it's still being operated by volunteers. And so it's like, I'm not about to call out a whole bunch of people that are giving up their spare time to do this stuff. And so that's why I'm quite careful about the stones that I throw are to people that are like actually in the position to do stuff. And so, like, yeah, look, would it have been good if Wellington Rugby had sent something out to like their provincial rugby players? Yeah, but I don't even know if they've got, like, they do have my address. I send them enough emails. But like the rest of our team, I don't know if they do. And like, this is again speaks to actually like a longer, wider issue that we have within our game, is that a lot of the infrastructure in terms of communications is set up to service men, and so those pathways don't always connect down. So like classic stuff, again, she's a troublemaker, was organising my local clubs before the season kicked off because there were some decisions that were made at the club chair levels about our competition without consultation with the female player base, and I was like, we getting together and we're sorting that out. So it's, you know, I was having arguments with my new club, kind of arguments with everybody, but scrapping
everything.
Can she retire? Like, far out, how old is she? But nah, bro. So it's like there are issues with communication lines all over, and so this is just another example of them falling over.
So, Alice, like you mentioned there, I mean, going to play in England, and I remember in the last World Cup, that big narrative was, here comes England, they're full-time professional. New Zealand kind of was, but there's a few in there that aren't-ish. And then that second half was stunning, right? That, you know, when we get in there and do that. Do you almost think that actually, in a way, that was kind of bad because someone upstairs would have gone, oh, sweet, you can do that on no budget? Okay, you go for it.
Yeah, 100%. So, like, and the thing is like, okay, so look, played 2 years over in England. England got a ways to go in terms of, like, their strength and conditioning, their, like, attitude to like training and everything is like far above. Like, we're lazy here, bro. That's like, I'll put my hand up, far out. I was like real good training up until like week 3, and then I trained Broncos for beers, and I need to get back on that, you know.
I love that diet.
Yeah, but no, so like they've got that side down tick, but their issue is that most of their player base starts at university, so they're starting so late, and so they're having to still learn the game while they're playing it, you know. So it's like they really paint by numbers, bro. Like I had arguments with my coach over there because they wanted us to run a set piece that was like a game plan that was like 5-6 phases long, and I was like, bro, if the space is in front of me, I'm just gonna run it. And they're like, nah, you have to run this and then this and this. This isn't real life, you know. And this is how it's played over there. So there's a lack of kind of freedom and encouragement, whereas like most of our rugby is born on, like, you know, the backyard, and so we only play chaos and then we learn structure, and that's an advantage we have, but it's not one that's going to hold. If you look at other countries, right, I reckon, so next World Cup it's going to be England, of course, because they're always a big rival of ours. France, bro. France. And France are the best example of what New Zealand rugby should be doing, because the legacy programs that they built off the World Cup that they hosted are huge. That's basically what's paying dividends for them now, is that they were wrapped up and they said, no, we're not just going to have this one marquee event, we're going to build everything off this, and then from there, boom, away they go. So France, US, bro, US have been taking off. Like, they've been, you know, cooking a little while on the 7 circuit and starting to get more serious there, but 15s as well is like, it's on the up. So like we've been just treading water, and thinking that that's good. And yeah, we started further out than everyone else, but meantime they're all catching up, so it's just a matter of time. Like.
So Alice, you didn't mention Australia. I was just wondering why.
Nah, sorry, bro. Nah, okay. Full love to my mate, Moana Virtue, who was one of my rugby mums when I started and is now the assistant coach of the Wallaroos. Love you, sis. And also Nella, who I played with here in Wainui, which is where I'm sitting now. We played schools together, who used to play first 5 for Wallaroos. how did that happen, sis? But like they're just not quite there, man. And that's, I think, is probably like symptomatic of everything else that's wrong with Australia rugby. Sorry, bro.
Look at Blake fade. He fades. Hey, Alice, can you a date really? Just a date from the NZR would be really just the start of something that is.
Yeah.
Probably there's a much wider problem there right now, right? Because a date will tell you when the Wharapama Cup starts, but what we really need to do is treasure what we have here with our New Zealand rugby women, because they, at the moment, it kind of feels like you're put on the back burner, you're brought out to perform when it's a World Cup year, maybe an Olympic year, and then you're put on the back burner again, and everyone's Super Rugby, look at the All Blacks, yeah. Somehow we need to find a way that the New Zealand public and New Zealand rugby treat the women's game with the respect it deserves at this stage now, because you've made the noise. You deserve to be supported.
Yeah, but this is the thing, man. I don't even think it's just about women's rugby. I think it's about everything except top tier, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so sick of that. Like, aren't you sick of that? I'm sick of, like, the fact that everything is in service for All Blacks, everything is in service for Super Rugby, and it's soulless, bro. It's soulless. We don't even know who these players are anymore. And the, like, crazy conveyor belt that there is for developing these players, like, we're churning and burning through players now, and they're 23. It's like, what the heck? Like, Rico Ione he's a good bloke. Like, he's a good player. But, like, the way that he's just been in and out now, and it's like his All Black career is over. Like, what? The kid is so young. Like, he hasn't had time to develop in terms of his head game yet. You know, like, these are whole elements of this. I was having, what a name drop's about to come. I was having a conversation with Frank Bunce.
Oh, Bunsey. Oh, you dropped Bunsey. You dropped Bunsey on the floor.
It's my mate. It's my close personal friend. No, not at all. But, like, you know, talking to him about what his experience was coming through, right? And what, and in terms of going to, like, school rugby wasn't even really a thing. Like, yeah, you wanted to play for your first 15 and cool, but, like, who cared? And then you went to your local club and you made that connection with your community, and then you played for your province, and then if you were lucky, you played for your country. And hey, you might have even got to play for another country before then. Like, that stuff was all so important in terms of building that emotional connection with players. And so we had ownership of, like, who they were, and we felt proud about Wellington and about whoever else. And, like, now I've just got muscle memories about the Hurricanes, but, like, I don't really care. You know, like, the first Black Fern game I ever got to see live was a curtain raiser for our Hurricanes. And to be honest with you, after the game, me and my mate looked at each other and were like, should we just go? Because we're not really interested in watching the Hurricanes here. We can watch it at the pub and for cheaper. So we walked out and everyone's like, where are you going? You're missing the game. We're like, no, we already watched the one we wanted to see. You know, like, so I think there's, again, like, people will talk about women's rugby in isolation, but it's not. It's a rugby-wide issue, the fact that we're not connecting anymore, and that, like, we're hiding characters away, and we're muzzling people, and we're taking all the personality and the kind of vibe out of the thing, and then we're wondering why people don't want to buy into it and don't want to turn up. It's like, listen to your audience, man. They're smarter than you think. Like,
oh my God. This has been, Alice, this has been life-changing for me. It's been amazing to hear you talk. I feel rude to say that we do actually have to move on, but are we able to keep your number, because we have to chat with you again, because you have opened up Pandora's box.
We've got your contact now. You're fucked.
Yeah, you're fucked.
Hey,
you're going to stop talking to the broom. Talk to us.
Hey, there's a reason why it's soapbox in the handles for shit, because she loves talking. So, anytime.
All good, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Alice.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
I feel like I'd love to I'd like to go have a beer with her.
I think it would be great fun.
That'd be awesome.
Be nuts. What a great she brings up some stuff that has been, I mean, we've all thought, and it is scary. I don't care. Like, it's scary to take on New Zealand rugby. You put your head above water and you say too much, and this is working in the media side of things, you just get cut. Like, sorry, mate, no All Blacks, no talking to rugby players, no, and you just sort of fade off into the night. But she's just like, no, I want to know. I want to know about my future. I want to know about what's going on here. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we?
Well, look, speaking of future, we dive forward into the future now. Why has Spoon's got that hat on? Chicago Bears hat is Jacob Spoonley sitting underneath that one, and Nick Hyde as well. G'day, boys. How are you?
We're great. Thanks for having us on.
Very cool. The Full 90 podcast, part of this is called This is Whānau. Look, this is starting to happen now.
Oh, good.
This is bloody good here as well. And I think are we still in the... Yeah, it's good. We're not breaking any level 2 restrictions or anything right now. There's only 5 of us on screen. So we're all good. So this is give us for those of us that might be seeing you for the first time, and that Nick, give us a quick rundown of what you boys put together.
Basically, out of frustration for lack of information on our sport, New Zealand football, we've got the most players playing in our country. We've got 60 professionals overseas now. Everything's looking good. Great under-20 team. Under-23s are at the Olympics. All Whites are playing a good style. We got, Ryan Thomas at PSV. We got Sapri at Bayern, and we just got no media traction, nothing going on. And so the football community have been crying out to actually hear not just the score, but some of the stories behind what's going on. Who are the personalities in the changing room? What are team nights out like? And we've uncovered some absolute doozies. And, that's really what it's about. So
did you hear that, Blake? Like that, that's where it felt like family just then, that sentence, didn't it? Team nights out. That felt like it.
So we've uncovered quite a few interesting stories, and really it's about our ability to get to the players and actually hear from them as opposed to just hearing a score and some stats. So we're quite happy to moneyball it and put all the stats on there and the stories behind it, but we actually want to get into the nitty gritty of who the players are and I guess sell them a little bit to the people.
Yeah.
For me, it was very much different. We did the pod after the Chatham Cup final. It was a game where Napier City came back, scored a last-minute goal. It was a cracking game, 3-2. And I just wasn't involved in the Sky Sports coverage. I wasn't included. So I was like, bugger this. I'm going to make sure someone hears my opinion.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
There was a time there tonight, though. I mean, I have a photo sport. Thank you to the team at Photo Sport. We get to go through their category of photos and look for photos of people, guests we're going to have on. And Jacob Spoonley, I mean, did I hit a raw note? Was there a?
No, this is a common theme.
No, what's the story? What's the story with that picture A, and then tell us about the common theme?
Well, the common theme is that I don't photograph well generally, and in particular on the sports field. So that's the first and foremost. Usually I've got a set of what my wife likes to refer to as the NZ Herald facials, because every photo that I got put in the paper, she'd have like family friends reading up and being like, "Is Jacob okay? He looks in pain."
It didn't help that your competition in goal was a male model either.
Yeah, we'll get onto that in a second as well. But so no, that's fine. It's just so in that particular game, so the one you've got, I think it's from about 2011, so it's a long time ago now. Andrew Aber is the guy that's kicking me in the ribs, and he actually plays with me at Forest Hill, Milford. Really nice guy. But I've come out to the edge of the box, and I'm just waiting for the ball to get over the white line so I can grab it.
Oh, I hate that.
And Aber's just screamed in using his Solomon Island pace, and he's thrown himself at it, and he's collected me. I'm trying to drop the ball down to protect myself. He's just like, as he would have been proud of this one, he's just booted me straight in the ribs.
Football stories and football. So, boys, I mean, we've managed to upload some of the podcasts already that you guys had pre-recorded earlier. I mean, you were having trouble with SoundCloud, so we grabbed them off SoundCloud. Now available on submitted to iTunes, so they will be available on iTunes soon. But people can go on Spotify. They can go through Mark Peard Sports. And you're also going to keep the Full 90 Facebook page and Instagram happening, so any people who want to watch or thing like that, we can post everything up there. It's going to be a marriage that works well because we're very light on the details. Like, we'll talk a little bit of football. Did I hear that the EPL is looking to come back in June, maybe? That was the idea. Like, we'll say that much, but we do need people with far better looks and way more intelligent and way more into the games to be able to make sure that the depth is there at Mark Peard Sports to be able to, to be able to take it to the next level. So we appreciate having you as part of the whānau.
No, thank you very much.
So what do we? Sorry, you go, Nate. You go.
No, I was wondering. I mean, let's.
Yeah, I didn't know that Nate was going to be on. You didn't tell me about that, Mark.
Yeah, it's good to see you, mate. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, brother.
How do you guys know each other? I didn't know there was even a knowledge thing here. What?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
No.
Please don't make it a bad
Nate's
story.
responsible for unleashing me on the unassuming public.
We've been broadcasters together before in the days when I used to work. I was going to say as a broadcaster, but actually just work at all. Well, no, but we do that. No, Spoons. So does Liverpool? What happens here? What happens with the whole Liverpool thing? Do they keep a title? Do they? Because it's the confusion with the clubs that could get like dropped down, right? That's the
So Liverpool's the easiest part of this whole thing because they're 2 games away. They've won this, so they need to win 2 games in the last 8, I think it is. So they are really straightforward. Apparently, the Premier League behind closed doors.
Team New
I'm
Zealand,
gonna ignore that. Oh, don't you dare
America's
start.
Cup,
Don't you dare start dropping a Barker reference in there on me. I've been waiting 30 years for this, Nate. So that's the easiest part of it, but it's really the like, for example, Man United's in fourth, and they are theoretically secure from relegation at this point. So we're talking about theoretics and maths, and that applies to Liverpool as well. But it's a much smaller margin they're playing with. Equally, it's about £120 million payday for staying in the Premier League. So if you're part of that bottom 5 or 6, is it Heidi? You're going to want to make sure that you get the best chance of staying in the Premier League.
Far out, yeah. So what do you think happens, Nick?
They have to play it. To be perfectly honest, the money is just too huge to not do it. And like Jacob said, it's not really the top of the table that you're worried about. It's the Champions League places, and then it's the 3 teams that get relegated. And on top of that, you've got 2 teams in the Championship that will be coming up, plus the playoffs. And if you don't do that, you're probably going to get your asses sued by everyone.
Yeah. You say they only need 2 games, but we had Robbie Farrow on here, who's a massive Liverpool fan over there, and he planned to go
carefully here, Blake. Tread carefully.
He's massive. Yeah, hey, he is massive, but I'll tell you here. So we're talking about how long Liverpool haven't won the title, and finally they get the chance this year, and this happens.
Yeah.
How are you so sure that they're going to win those 2 games?
Yeah, true.
Because we've lost 1 game in the last 2 seasons.
And look what happened. COVID. COVID.
God doesn't like us. I think that's it, mate.
You're not supposed to win.
Nothing certain.
This is the worst. This is the part I don't like, because I just get wound up by everybody.
Usually I'm the only one that winds it up. This is brilliant. I love this.
Yeah, exactly. No, see, the problem is, Jacob, is that if you get to the 30 years, this is us hanging on to the end of our fun here that we've got with this. Okay.
Hey, interestingly though, Heidi's a massive Sheffield Wednesday fan, so he's on cloud 9 at the moment because they've got Gary Hooper, who's come on form for the Wellington Phoenix. He's banging in goals for Sheffield Wednesday and Celtic. So hopefully we can maybe, if he comes back into the country, get a chance to chat with him. But would it be worthwhile just running through who we've got on the
Absolutely,
on the
yeah. I was going to ask
in the coming month.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Heidi, mate, you can take us through this, because the first cab off the rank is an interesting one. Not only is he better looking than me, but he stole my job.
Yeah, so we tweet up beauty. Jacob and Tamati Williams, or Tama as he's known, have been vying for the Auckland City goalkeeping spot for probably the last 10 years, backwards and forwards. Both heavily involved in when the Auckland City team made those awesome appearances at the Club World Cup when they came 5th and 3rd, which is absolutely stunning. I think a couple of minutes away from playing Real Madrid in the final. It's absolute, storybook dreams for any player in New Zealand to be in it.
Don't talk about the Halbergs though, Heidi. Oh, it still hurts.
Yeah, well, obviously not the best team in New Zealand, but the best team in the world, but not the best team in New Zealand. So there you go. You all know the All Blacks a bit, mate. Let's be honest.
Yeah. So we've got Tama on, and then we'll be looking at doing a bit of a review of COVID now that hopefully we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So for that, we've got Michael Voud, who's currently playing in Holland, and he's starting now for Willem-Twee, which is great. So he's just down the road from Ryan Thomas. And then a name that you guys might be familiar, Nico Kerwin, though, not Sir John.
Yes.
And he is currently stuck. We're not quite sure where he is at the moment, but he's stuck in Italy, subject to their quarantine and restrictions. So we're going to have a chat to those 2 boys, and then get in one of the absolute oracles of football in the country, a guy that you probably heard a lot from but haven't seen, Gordon Glenn Watson.
Nice.
Very cool.
I think we had Nico's dad on
Nico's dad
day.
is brilliant.
Yeah, isn't that nice? But the nice thing, we actually spoke to, we spoke to him, to John Kerwin about. We spoke to him about meat and wine, and we had a lovely time. And he actually pulled out a gridiron helmet that had Brett Favre's signature on it, and that was his
Awesome.
that was his cool thing that he brought with him. But it's actually quite neat with that, like when you see an absolute legend like that, and hearing that him and Fiorello, they get up and they watch the games on the laptop and they're all tuned in for it. I was thinking with it, man, like, it must be, at the same time, you're really proud of that. I'll be looking at my kid there in Italy and looking at all the COVID over there and thinking like, come home, man. So
and now the toxic shock stuff as well. I don't know if you've seen that. That's really scary.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hey guys, can you educate me a bit? Obviously,
that's not a educate me first, Blake. That's not a Kiwi accent you've got there.
Socceroos fan. We've done well over the last couple of World Cups.
Mate, you've done about as well as Heidi's shirt, to be fair, over the last little while.
Hey, all I'm going to say is we got there. All right. Now, all I want to know is Australia. Obviously, we're in the Oceania, and they moved to the Asian qualifying. How come New Zealand haven't moved over? Because I don't know. Is it easier than facing a South American team once you get through Oceania?
Good question. Very good question, because Australia have made that move and it's paid off for them for their actual national team. Obviously, the Socceroos are doing well. They're qualifying for World Cups. They're playing regular matches. However, the plus for us is that our junior teams, our under 17s, under 20s, and under 23s are now getting through to FIFA tournaments where we're seeing, I guess, the best of our young players develop and get picked up. You know, Sarpreet really got signed off the back of a great season at Wellington Phoenix and the under 20 World Cup. And so there's pluses both sides. So there's also negatives. So our national team, our men's side are really struggling for matches because we're not in Asia.
Yep.
But our junior teams are doing really well and so are our women's teams. But on the flip side, you know, Aussies are making great strides with their national team and maybe not so much with their junior teams.
And to be honest, politically, Blake, it's the island teams each hold a vote, and I'm not sure if there's a great appetite amongst their particular organisations to move into what will effectively be a Southeast Asian Confederation. So if there was to be an absorption of the Oceania Confederation, then you're probably likely to see a split between continental Asia and Southeast Asia. So it's a massive, massive thing to do. It's been touted in the past, but I think everyone's enjoying their current funding at the moment. I think it's fair to say.
Boys, just a question from me. Where is New Zealand football at the moment? Are we in safe hands with our junior game, with the organisation of the league, the local league, and I guess the way that the players are progressing up? Are we in safe hands, or does there need to be a bit of a shit kicking going on, and some people need to be held accountable at some stages?
Are you going quiet on this one, Jacob?
Look, I mean, I'm happy to take it. Yeah, I'll let Nick go first because this is part of the pod. There's certain things that I can't talk about, and Nick can really take the bull by the horns. But I think it's always important that we provide context as well.
Yeah, so Jacob's on the Players Association, so he has to be a little bit muted than what he can and can't say about New Zealand football, whereas I'm a little bit more of a free spirit.
Let rip, Nick.
Yeah, look, administration of New Zealand football for the last, 30 years has been really poor. I think you've got some well-meaning people, but it's almost like it's a castle up on the hill telling all the players and admin and volunteers how to do things. There's some really awesome people in New Zealand football, but every time we get off the ground with some good ideas, it just doesn't get support. They get shut down. You know, the best players, the Sarpreets and the Ryan Thomases and the young players that have come through and made those professional games have all come out of private coaching clinics, not New Zealand ones. Yeah. Those private coaching clinics are not being supported by New Zealand football. So from a youth kind of point of view, we have got better with our programs. Our players are more technical. It's certainly there's been a massive change in how we play. If you look at the 2010 World Cup, when Ryan Nelson was fantastic for us, we still had our backs to the wall. You know, we still defended like lions, and we maybe sneak a goal. We are not playing like that anymore. We're actually playing position football. We're in the game. It's 50-50, and you've probably seen that with the under-20s and under-23s recently. I have a real fear, though, that we are simply not going to carry on that way because we're getting a kind of generic plan across the country from New Zealand football of how everyone should do the same stuff. And you've obviously New Zealand football signed up to that group of codes that all came out and said, look, we're going to go with that kind of non-competitive participation, keep kids in sport. From a player like myself who spent 20 odd years playing in our national leagues and played pro overseas.
Nick was good at kicking, I think, is what he's getting to, and being competitive.
Tackling was always a forte, you know, like the dirty stuff. But, you know, I take great pleasure in seeing the technical ability of our players, but I'm just so disappointed that we are moving into this. Look, we'll have more people playing participation. It's not going to help our game at the top level. We really need to kind of segue the two. If you're a social player, this is where you're going. And if you're a serious player, this is where you're going. But we don't have that.
I think if I was like a full-on football guy, I think the thing that would annoy me the most, and this is like we went down to the that playoff game against Peru. That was amazing, right? You know, just being in that, and you go like, this atmosphere is amazing. Like also it's cool because Peruvians were really short, and I felt really tall, so that was good. But apart from, you know what I mean? There's been that. There's been the game against
The football environment's a lot different to a rugby one. A rugby one's really tense, and everyone wants to win, and we can only celebrate at the 80th minute. Whereas football, it's kind of a bit more of a festive vibe.
But the thing is like, so those were sellout games, right? The Bahrain game and that. And then the All Whites, it must feel like shit when you've had that, and then you run out for your next game, which is playing for New Zealand at home. It's against New Caledonia. And all of a sudden, the football fans are too good to go and see it because it's New Caledonia. Like, I'm sure that if England played the Faroe Islands, they'd still get a hell of a good crowd in, right? Like, that's something I have trouble getting my head around. How do you...
It's even more complicated than that, Nate, because if you look at it from a New Zealand point of view, the All Whites and to a certain extent the football firms now really sit in contrast to what a lot of the teams do. So when the All Blacks, for example, play, everyone flies into Auckland and then you fly off to Heathrow to play a game in London. With the All Whites, you've got, Heidi, help me out here. You've got 3 in London, you've got 2 in Holland, you've got 1 in Italy, or Nico, if you get to call it, the 1 in Italy. You've got 5 in America. You've got the Phoenix boys here are probably going to take a contingent of 8. So all of a sudden you're looking at this, the starting point where everyone's spread all across the world. And that's not necessarily a complicating factor, but it's the fact that they are in different environments. They're going to be subject to different norms. They're in different seasons. And it's this kind of overriding complication. So when, as Heidi just said there, you get football and you put it into the same bucket as a lot of codes that simply need to focus in New Zealand, that's not a fit. That foundation is not the right fit. As Heidi's saying, it's very different to rugby in some ways, but equally we can take from rugby. And I think in the past we've just been so against both ideas. We need to be generic. We need to have the same up and down the country. And rugby, no thanks. We know better than rugby. And that's simply not true on both counts. And I think that's a kind of overriding frustration from my point of view. Coming back to your point about the games against New Caledonia, being in Westpac and there's only 3,000 people there against Vanuatu is really frustrating.
But then
because it's the same. Yeah, it's the same All Whites.
That's the other part of it.
You spoke about...
Fuck, that was a weird moment. That was just you both of me. Can I just split that for a second? Nate, say what you were going to say, and then by all means, say what you were going to say.
Okay, well, what gets me is like the bit with like, that's the same All Whites jersey running out onto the field, right? It's the same... That jersey stays here. It doesn't come from elsewhere. It's right here. The fans are right there in the stadium that it was. And I kind of hate the whole, I really want to see oh, God, why don't we get more games? And then they get one and they're like, yeah, but not that. I need it to be amazing. It's like, well, just at least go to that. Cheer for our guys. Come on.
Yeah, so before Blake jumps in, this is the key reason. Is that, so if I was to say to you that we were going to play a bunch of local players or those playing in the A-League for the upcoming qualification series, the initial qualification series, which is what we do to keep costs down, which is fair enough because, COVID-19 is going to mean that there's a limited amount of commercial resource to support our game. If I was to say, name for me one ISPS 100 Premiership game, Nate, could you?
Sorry, a game?
An ISPS 100 Premiership player. Apologies.
Oh, geez. No, because I don't think Clapham's still playing. So there you go.
That's the point. Yeah, so that's why Heidi and I have put together this podcast, because we've got some great characters and some even better young talent coming through that league. So last year alone, we shipped, I think was it 20 to 25, Heidi, players from that league to professional leagues.
Yeah, basically the team Eastern Suburbs that won the league last year, all but one player went pro after that.
Wow.
Poor Calvin Cutler is all by himself now. He's got no mates.
Next year, though.
Well, Calvin should have done something with his life. He should have tried a little harder. I'm sorry, Calvin. I don't know.
No, you've been watching that Michael Jordan documentary.
That's right.
Yeah. I just watched that. Sorry, Blake, mate. Off you go.
No, that's all right. I was just going to touch on what you said. You've got players playing all around the world. With your fellas' knowledge, do you know, well, firstly, the A-League, is there a chance that the Wellington Phoenix could come over and do the quarantine and the A-League might get off the ground, like the NRL? Or do you know any of the other countries, like we've seen Korea soccer, I think?
Yep.
Yeah. 3 million views on Twitter alone, Blake.
Yeah. Is there any other soccer around the world that you think might start up? Like, is A-League a chance?
So you got 90.
Yeah, Bundesliga. So Saarbrück's Bundesliga is starting next week. So, and I mentioned before about the Moneyball type of stuff, and people wonder why Saarbrück got signed. Well, he was one of only 3 under-23 players last year in the A-League to play more than 2,000 minutes. One of the other ones was Libby Kakache. So from a New Zealand point of view, on fire. He played 40 games in his Phoenix career, scored 9 goals, 8 assists. He's been at the German club Bayern. He's played 20 games.
At the German club Bayern, yeah. Just one of the most successful ever clubs.
So, let's put it this way. He's played 20 games, scored 7 and 7 assists. So already he's played half as many games for the same output. He is on fire. And you can expect Saarpreet to be trying to bust into that starting lineup or on the bench a little bit more before the end of the season in Germany. So you heard it here first, but there you go. I've got the Moneyball stats, and he is definitely trending upwards. So German League will be good to go next week.
You're Brad Pitt. You're Brad Pitt.
A-League, yes, they will be getting towards. You want to do the A-League, Jacob?
No. I was just saying I'm Brad Pitt. Blake was asking. I'm definitely Brad Pitt. You can be Jonah Hill.
Brad Pitt.
And just on that, so
Jonah Hill, it's fine.
Jonah Hill.
I can improve a lot, mate. You're going to go downhill from Brad Pitt.
He gets to be, that meme. He's that, Jonah.
I love that. Yeah. So the other part of that story that is sometimes overlooked is that a little player called Haaland, who has scored, I think it's 9 goals in 8 games for Borussia Dortmund, and for their first team. He actually played against the New Zealand under 20. So against
the blonde guy who looks,
so he
looks like the evil
played,
guy in a skiing film. I hate him.
No, Rocky. He looks like the guy from.
He's Ivan Drago. He's all of that. He's the evil ski guy.
His dad's the one that got 2-footed by Roy Keane in that horrible.
How do you like that, clown?
Yeah. So I'm including myself in this. I'm getting old. So the under 20s, they played Haaland at the under 20 World Cup, and he was on the way for big things at that point. We beat Norway 2-0, and Saarpreet, we've heard it back through the grapevine. He was the best player on the field that day from top scouts' point of view, and over the course of the tournament, he was in the top 2 best players in any game that he played. So that kind of gives you the idea about how well respected his talent is overseas. His
stats are proving that he is the person that creates the most chances for his teammates out of anyone.
Really?
Yeah. That's not bad. That's not bad over there. It's a good company to do it.
But it's shit like this that we don't. We I guess the mainstream run of fans who are bread and butter, rugby league, rugby union, bit of cricket on the side, maybe a bit of jam. For this type of information, when you hear this, you get excited about it. And then, the ability to be able to get it out there to as many people as we possibly can, I think, and I'd like to think that this can help make sure that whenever the All Whites are playing, even if it is Vanuatu, we all get in behind it, and you're there broadcasting on Markhead Sports. Like, that is the dream, and we we raise above like what it's ever been, which is I'm excited about.
No, absolutely. And look, just 2 really cool examples that we're able to kind of include in our stable of podcasts so far. So we've got 20, I think 6 are up on Spotify. They're varying quality because I weren't technically fantastic. But we actually had a chat to Des Buckingham, and we won't go into that situation because it's a complicated one. But if you want to hear about what he was doing in that playing group and what the players thought, because we actually did a podcast with the players and a podcast with the coaching staff, and it was fascinating, like literally fascinating. Heidi and I were invited into the Millennium Sports Institute, which is where they were preparing for qualifying, I think it was, Heidi, at that time. And they'd just come off the back of drawing twice with Australia 1-1. And the feeling in the playing group, and this is coming back to your point, Blake, about the Aussie boys doing so well, they were really frustrated that they tied those 2 games. They were like borderline disappointed. And I've gone across to Australia. I've beaten Australia in Australia. And I was thrilled. I was surprised. These boys, they were disappointed because they hadn't gone out and achieved their goal. And then hearing on top of that, the insights from somebody like Des, who's a wonderful coach and in his own right, and how he'd kind of gone about building that was really, really interesting. Equally, we've had a fantastic response from the players. And one of those has been Ryan Thomas. Now, Ryan Thomas is a guy that was touted for a transfer to Valencia a couple of years ago when he was playing for Pix Valle, who are a team in Holland. He scored in the Dutch final, so the equivalent of the FA Cup. He plays against Ajax. He started the season playing for Mark van Bommel, who just used to score ridiculous goals and was on the list for Ballon d'Or. And he plays in probably the most important position for PSV, and it's the same position Mark van Bommel played. It's at number 10 position. He's seen as the creative player in a top-tier European league. He's diminutive. He's about 5'7". He's from Te Puke. And he is the most humble guy that you'll ever meet, and he's made himself available for us. And not only that, but at his own cost, out of his own pocket, he sent across a shirt, which we were supposed to give away at some point, but we never got around to it.
Don't, man. Don't.
Yeah.
No, you hang on to that. Hang on to that. Far out. I was just thinking there.
Well, Nick needs a new shirt, Nate, as well. I mean, look at
No, I love that shirt. No, that shirt
I
is
don't
on.
fit a 5'7" shirt, Jacob. So.
That shirt is on. I'm telling you what, if you went out, you couldn't go out and have a crowd smaller than 10 around you with that shirt. It wouldn't happen. That's not a level 2 safe shirt, as I'm telling you now. Because it's okay. So I've got two things here. One, I was thinking there's always, this is great because with how good Sakri is doing, you can write this down for later. You guys have got one of those great. Well, who is our greatest ever? One of those. Those are podcasts you keep up your sleeve for rainy days. Is he better than Rufer? One of those. You know what I mean? One of those are great, and that'll head explodes. Those are good ones. And you were thinking there before, if we want to be noticed by the world, like you were talking about the Korean football, right? So on the weekend there was the UFC was on. We need something like that in New Zealand with our COVID lifted things. The Soctagon. What do you think? On Waiheke Island, it's like,
You've got me.
obviously,
Is this,
and then
is
someone
this
will
like
go,
a death cage match where there's a goal on each cage part, and
yeah.
Didn't Nike do an ad like that a couple of years ago?
I'm working. Yeah, they did. Yeah, with a little less conversation.
Gentlemen, you may recall I did warn you that the Daily Debrief does very much just go over the top, and we're looking for you for depth. So maybe run with the Soctagon, or maybe not.
I haven't figured it all out yet, but it's just a starter.
We'll leave the detail up to you guys.
And then someone will ring in
and
and go.
too, Mark.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some good stories about coaches who had to go to the pub to pick up players and take them to an under-20 trial, who then, very hungover, pulled out the best beat test and blew away all the other players.
Always the case. Always the case.
I wouldn't name names, but these
that's
things,
awesome.
they're wonderful when you unearth them.
Yeah. Do you want to just briefly, Heidi, I reckon you go through the initiation in East Germany as experienced by one of our boys.
So when we were talking to the under-23 players, many of them had played professionally or got their starts over in Europe. And it's really hard for Kiwis to go into European forays. And I know when I was playing professionally, when new trialists came in, we were horrible to them because it's your job. At the end of the day, Blake's probably nodding in his head. He knows what it's like a little bit too. But, you know, you don't – if I go through on goal and all I have to do is square it to the guy to score and he's on his trial, I'll square it a little bit behind him so he misses it. And, you know – But so we talked to the boys about their experiences because, you know, going to places like Germany and Switzerland and stuff is really tough when you're from New Zealand. No one wants to know you at all. And so Logan Rogerson told us that he'd been trialling at the German club, and every day for about a week after training, the goalkeeper stood up completely naked after having a shower and walked over to him and just stood right in front of him. Every day.
Yes.
Week. And so at the end of that week, he just picked up his drink bottle and he hurled it. This was the first team goalkeeper, and he scones him in the eye and splits his eye open.
And then tackles him, which I'm not sure is the best.
Not sure about the cricket roaming wrestling afterwards, but at the end of the day, it got him some respect and credibility, and it was fine after that. And we talked to Maya Devon. He said when he was playing in Switzerland, none of the boys spoke to him. He'd ask where the mats were or where do you go to get your boots cleaned. Oh, we don't speak English. And then suddenly he scored a few goals, and they all speak English. Yeah. So, you know, it's really nice to have these chats because we found making connections to our Kiwis who are overseas has been something they've enjoyed too.
I'm looking forward to, I think, the most boys is learning more about our local game. Like, there is nowhere in my face that ever gets in my face, and I'm usually on social media consuming my sports. So I reckon we've got a real advantage here where a lot of people can learn the local game and grow the local game just by utilising where people are hanging out, and that is social media. So I'm looking forward to working with you both. Welcome to the whānau. It's going to be a pleasure to have you on board, and we'll do everything we can to boost you, and you can do everything you can to make us look legitimate by having proper opinions and stuff. Remember the Soctagon. All right, thank you, boys. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll be in touch. Looking for the first podcast next week. Are we? Are we?
Well, it depends when you get done editing it, to be honest, Mark. So
okay.
we'll be going.
Aiming for next week. Top man.
Magic in the background. Good on you.
Thank you, boys.
Awesome, lads.
Pleasure, guys.
Cheers.
There we go. Hey, news on May the 12th sounds like this. Apparently the Queensland Chief Health Officer, Dr. Jeanette Yorker, said no jab, no play unless medical grounds for Queensland. So we'll get to Blake just a second about that. Sebastian Vettel's going to leave Ferrari at the end of the year. Nehemiah Scudder's going to play for the Highlanders in Super Rugby this year.
The Highlanders?
And Sam, yes, he's signed with with the Highlanders for Super Rugby Aotearoa. And Sam Whitelock is coming back to the Crusaders. And on Twitter, this guy here was the best street fight I've seen. I've watched a lot of street fights in COVID. But he looks kind of like that guy, Stephen Merchant, the actor. And look at this. It's right in the liver. Boom, and off he goes. So Blake, that was so this is just more about, I mean, obviously you don't know about the situations of those guys, and maybe you hadn't heard about it, but she's the I guess the chief officer for Queensland with that. So she's saying no jab, no play unless it's like a medical thing. But the way that it works in Australia, can you help me here? That would only be for games in Queensland? Is that how it would work?
I guess so. Yeah. I honestly, like, I don't know. I've just stopped looking because it changes every day. Like, they'll bring something out and then they'll say it without looking up anything or following up, but just random statements come out. So no one's really ready to make a decision. They're just passing the buck. Like the Queensland Premier made the no jab, no play. Now this lady's saying you can play if you get a medical clearance or whatever. So it's just stupid.
Yes.
Like, someone just needs to come out. ScoMo needs to grab some balls and just go, this is what's happening.
Yeah,
right?
That's going to happen.
Like all everyone else, like, oh no, it's not. This is what he needs to do.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing, you could be right, Nato. They might be able to play all the other games, just not in Queensland.
Gentlemen, we were so close. We got straight into Alice Soper, so we missed the idea of actually launching with our weather chat, because we do like to launch with a little weather chat. Blake, how was the weather today in Tamworth?
Oh, it was immaculate.
Immaculate. What's the feeling now at the moment?
It's not too bad. Last night I was freezing.
Tonight,
Tonight, not too bad.
Oh, but much chilly.
So you might wake up to a bit of cloud cover tomorrow. Might be there, so.
Yeah, probably.
We've got Ivan who says, good evening, gentlemen, and Alice. Bit chilly in Cambridge tonight. Bit chilly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's a bit cold. Nate, weather for you. Weather for you. Don't let us down. Weather chat.
Have a good weather chat.
Same weather. All right.
Mate, is that fridge keeping your house cold, or
have you got it fixed yet? Your fridge door, it's fallen off.
No,
Have you fixed it?
It's not fixable. It's broken, so we had to get a new one from Farmers. But it hasn't shown up yet. But see, the problem for us is that the kitchen's upstairs. So I was really kind of worried. I thought, okay, so they're going to drop it off because of COVID. You know, the whole contactless delivery. Like, you have to be away 5 meters, and we will put it down and spray it.
They'll leave it up at your bloody mailbox, mate. That's what they'll do.
And I was thinking, like, how the hell am I going to carry a fridge upstairs? But luckily, with the lift to level 2 on Thursday, I've only got one more day where I'm hoping that they'll do it there, because then I can say, okay, burly men, please carry it up the stairs and do that, and can you take the other one away? But so at the moment it's a 2-person job whenever anyone needs to open the fridge. So I was cooking dinner and I'm like, Ryla, that's my daughter. Go, Ryla, come down. So she has to come in, and I put a foot underneath the bottom of it. I hold my left hand on it. I slowly swing that one out with my foot holding it, and then she does that reach in around the corner thing that we were doing the other day, and then she'll pull out the tomato sauce and the Missy Q's mustard sauce for the bolognese. So
nice.
That's the where I am.
The update. So we're hoping fridge gets delivers on Thursday. Therefore, it's level 2, and you'll get help getting him up the stairs.
Level 2 fridge delivery. Yeah.
Oh, boys, a bit more weather chat just before we go. Bryce Hoskins says, "Oh, dew on the ground in the valley. Ooh, you cheeky bastard, bit of dew." And Zaid White clearly thinks that we know where he lives, because he says, a bit of rain here, got the fire on, cozy as. Zaid, you got to tell us where you are, Zaid. That's how the game works.
Zaid is at his house. He's on lockdown, mate.
All right, team, that's us. Wonderful. Man, Alice, man, she said some shit that was real and proper revealing. And I'm really excited to have Jacob Spoonley and Nick Hyde on the shows. Going forward, they will have a similar format to us. You'll be able to watch their show. Bits of it were going to be pre-recorded, obviously, because they'll have guests from well overseas, New Zealanders playing overseas, and then we'll just slot them into a show. And it's growing, boys. I know there's cricket on the way as well. I'll give you a clue to that. And also, and also a bit of a duo going on between two fairly well-known people in the sporting world. So Marquette Sport is expanding. Blake, stay safe in Tamworth, mate. Stay safe, and we will catch up tomorrow night. More excitement, more excitement. Nate, you got outro music, or you already spent it?
Oh, no. I sort of blew my wad on that one with the news.
That's all right.